Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Cal. I'm Jellen. I'm going to do an interview with Cal Washington from Canada, who came all the way here, and he's going to present us his movement, the InPower movement, and what he's been building with it and been doing with it. And we're going to discuss a plethora of topics and also make some kind of distinction and comparison with Belgian legislation and how people can apply the no notice of liability principles for them in everyday life, because it looks quite complex, but it's not actually that hard. But first of all, thank you, Cal, for coming.
Oh, I'm honored to be here.
Nice to meet you, man. And we also had a nice chat beforehand, and you were talking about what you have been studying before you arrived at the point that you are at right now. You said you start with learning Canadian constitutional law, but that it's not really constitutional law that you learned. Can you please explain a bit further?
Yeah, I started in a divorce case, and that was my first, other than a couple of traffic things and a few skirmishes in my life, but that's when I got immersed into the court. And what I thought the court was not it wasn't what I thought it was. So I started with that. So, and I tried to figure out what was going on in there. So then I looked up the history and et cetera, and I found out what it should be. And it wasn't that either. And then I started to search, because it wasn't actually operating the way it should have. I found out what it is. So in all of that, I found that Canada was not really a country at all, and you could easily see it. It wasn't covered up well, because it was done hundreds of years ago. So you could see the flaws in it, and every time that I brought these things up into court or anywhere, I didn't get one rebuttal. So I went, okay, this is the truth, and otherwise they would say so. And I wrote even right up to the Queen Elizabeth, and so she would know if what I was saying was wrong, and I got no reply.
Okay, so you said that what it should have been. You said Canada, there's a difference between what it should have been and what it was.
Yeah.
I can imagine that you mean by what it was that it was a corporation, registered, and that it was solely about business and companies and partnerships and money and commerce and business. But what should it have been in the first place? Because this will give people an understanding what the law system represents in Belgium, because we probably have the same issues.
Yeah.
What should it have been in the first place?
It should have been a country. And it should have been operating under a written constitution that would be clear and gave the relationship between the ones governing and the ones that are being governed. Yes. And all the different aspects of that. Now, there is a document that exists called the British North America Act that they portrayed as that document. The problem was that Queen Victoria in 1893 had repealed it by removing the enacting clause.
Wow.
So they pretended it was still in effect, but it wasn't. And so the whole thing dropped back to the Hudson Bay Charter, which was a clear charter for a monopoly corporation to run as a government.
Oh.
So it was allowed to make its own laws and enforce them. It had courts. It had jails. It had cannons, artillery to defend itself at the forts. It had use of the Royal Navy and Royal Army, and then it had the police force now known as the RCMP, which is, and these things all still exist. So when you read the Hudson Bay Charter and you look at how things are today, it lines up.
Okay.
So that's the problem. People think it's a country, but it's not. It's running under the Hudson Bay Charter.
It's a corporation.
Yeah.
So I'm going to briefly translate what Cal just said. So Canada is not a country, but it is pretending to be a country. Every law or everything that is legally valid or lawfully valid needs an enactment clause. Dat is een toetredingsclausule in Dutch. Without an enactment clause, it is not valid. It has zero power. You cannot use it. You cannot enforce it without it. And because Queen Victoria did not sign it or repealed her signature, that's what you said, right? It became an invalid law or an invalid piece of law. And so they needed something else. And they came up with the Hudson Charter?
No, the Hudson Bay Charter pre-existed.
Okay.
So Hudson Bay Charter goes back to 1670.
4 years after.
Yeah, so it's in line with the Dutch East India Trading Company,
Yes.
the East India Trading Company out of London, the Virginia Company, all these massive corporations, and that was the first investing type things. Those were all like joint venture type corporations. So it's at the same time as one of those. So the Hudson Bay Company was a charter from 1670, given to the cousin of the king at the time, King Charles II, and giving him a full monopoly. So some background: Prince Rupert, who was the cousin of the king, was a privateer, which is a licensed pirate, and a slave trader.
That's right.
So a slave trader and a pirate was the first governor of what we know as Canada, and it has not changed.
That's right. Because the names are pirateered every day.
Yeah, so that ran for about 200 years, and everybody knew it was a corporation. What they did was, a couple of things happened. There was the gold rush in British Columbia. So British Columbia is on the west coast of Canada, and it was not part of Rupert's Land. So on that side of the Rocky Mountains was all native land. They found gold over there. A lot of it. So all the Americans were coming up, and then the Americans bought Alaska in 1866, and then so the Canadian the Queen was getting nervous about the Americans moving into British Columbia, and then also they were considering buying the Hudson Bay Company. So the Queen's Land would have been just the maritime, the East Coast, 4 provinces. So she formed a dominion out of the 4 provinces that they had, so that they could acquire Rupert's Land, which was most of Canada. So that was the meaning. That was the original intent of the British North America Act. It even says that in the preamble. Okay. So one of the reasons for this act is to acquire this Rupert's Land. Yeah. So they surrendered she formed the Dominion. Then they surrendered the Hudson Bay Charter to her. So now she has it. And then 20 years later, she removed the British North America Act. So now she's in charge of the
total dominion.
Well, she got rid of the Dominion, but she has the Hudson Bay Charter.
Oh, yeah.
So she's running the corporation as if it's a country. And then over time, people keep voting and they just think it's a country, and it's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
They just change roles and change people with same functions.
They didn't even change the people. The people that were running the Hudson Bay Company ended up in the Dominion.
Okay.
Yeah, it was so obvious. So this is where, when I saw all this, I went, okay, this is very clear what has happened here. So then, with removing the enacting clause of the British North America Act, now we're running under the Hudson Bay Charter again. But in 82, Trudeau, I guess, saw this and tried to fix it.
Okay, what did he do?
He took the British North America Act, gave it a new name called the Constitution Act, added the Charter of Rights and Freedoms that everybody keeps going on about, thinking that it has some validity, and then they couldn't pass it because one of the important things about the British North America Act is it created the Parliament and created the legislatures in the provinces.
So they created the slave system that way.
Well, no, it's without that document, without the British North America Act, there is no Parliament in Ottawa. There's not, it doesn't exist because it got removed when she removed the enacting clause of the document that forms them.
Right.
So they knew this and they tried to fix it in 1982 by changing the name, but the same words in the British North America Act. And then the only way they could pass it, because there was no Parliament, you can't create The thing that's in the document can't create the document or can't give it any validity. So they had the Queen come over to do a proclamation in order to give it any force and effect. And she put a clause in there saying that the French-speaking people in Quebec would have to sign off on a language issue, which she knew they would never do. So the whole thing has been in limbo for over 40 years. So we're still under the Hudson Bay Charter, and this new act is pending, but they keep acting as if it's valid. So when I'm in court and I bring this up to a judge, they generally want to get out of the room.
They do not even argue it.
Nope. I have had zero rebuttals on this.
Okay.
And these are type of people who will rebut anything you say.
That's right.
Yeah, they're usually are trying to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, they're trying to impress themselves onto you.
Exactly.
To make you smaller.
Exactly. They have no rebuttal for this.
Okay. And then after that, when you bring this up, how would you proceed? If they try to ignore it or if they try to invalidate it?
Well, I was still in the beginning stages. I would just say, you can't make me do this, and I'm not coming, etc. And all I do is get arrested, right? So I was like, okay, what do we do? Because they don't see they understand the truth, but they don't seem to care. Like, it doesn't matter that I'm correct. They have the guns, and what are you going to do?
All right. Yes.
Then I learned commerce. So now I've got 3 court cases running in my life, which was eating up my life. I had to spend a lot of time preparing and then just showing up, missing work and all kinds of things. The first time I did a commercial move, the judge ran out of the room.
And what do you mean with commercial move?
So commerce is an ancient jurisdiction that's running in every so-called country. And this is the old merchant law that goes way back into antiquity that they've hidden. They don't talk about it, but it's very prevalent.
That's right. They don't talk about it in Belgium too.
No, they don't talk about it anywhere. It's not taught in law school. No lawyers know about it. Some lawyers know about it, but they're not taught it. They would learn it somewhere else.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not in the law schools. And yet you'll see law merchant mentioned in federal acts, et cetera. So, but nobody knows what it is. But it's what's running the world. So when I started to tap into that and using indemnity bonds, indemnity bonds are like from Admiralty, and when the people started using shipping. So you had to insure the cargo, insure the crew, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So I started to tap into this. I didn't know much about it, but I did a bond on a case that I'd already been involved with for over a year. And I'd seen the judge 2 or 3 times and over that period, and he ran out of the room. Mm. So at first I thought he had to go to the bathroom because the urgency of the way he left, and nobody said all rise or anything. He just got out, and everybody's looking around like what's happening. The sheriffs and everybody's like, where'd the judge go, right? Yeah. So I thought it was just he had stomach problems, and but later that night I thought, oh wow, wonder if it's because of the paperwork I put in. So let's do that again and again and again, and we got the same kind of reactions. The judges were terrified of what we were doing. Okay. We still didn't really fully understand it because it was trial and error. So that's when I saw that was when the tide, the waves are coming in, and then the tide goes in, and then at a certain point the tide starts going out. Well, that was the tide going out for me. So there's still waves. I still had some turmoil, but at that point, that's when my whole life changed. My whole experience with the courts and the government changed.
Okay. Can we back up a tiny bit?
Mm-hmm.
So for the people who don't know, can you please explain to them what is a bond?
A bond is insurance, basically. So when going back into the Middle Ages and slightly before that, the merchants moved on the land. So they would go in like camel trains, et cetera, Silk Road, all these things we've heard about, we don't really understand, the merchants of Venice, et cetera. when they started to ship in boats, certain things happened. The ships would become wrecked, lost, or pirates would get them. Mm-hmm. So piracy was a big thing. Mm-hmm. So much so that you could be a licensed pirate. Think about that. So now you're sending a boat out with cargo on there from, say, Belgium over to London, England. And you don't know if that cargo is going to get there. Mm-hmm. So there was this Lloyd's of London, et cetera, sprung up from all that. So that the whole insurance industry. But you had to bond the boat, and you could borrow based on that bond of the boat as well. So you could borrow money based on the boat, and somebody would have an interest in it. So this is where all these interest, legal titles and et cetera. Exactly. So you had to bond the boat, you had to bond the cargo, the crew, because sometimes the crew would disappear and you'd have a new crew by the time it got there and you wouldn't know why, and then the captain. So there was bills of lading that said it's this boat, this cargo, this is the crew, and this should all get to the destination, and then somebody would check at the dock and go, yep, everything's here, sign off on it. And so that's the whole bonding thing. So it has to do with commerce and moving stuff on boats mostly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the second question is, you said when you got into learning commerce, but how did you learn about commerce? Because as you said, it is not taught in law schools. It is not taught in the public school system. It is definitely not available in a local library. So how did you come across this information, these books?
Well, it wasn't so much books. I was immersed in this thing for many years, and they weren't winning against me, and I wasn't winning against them. But I had to keep coming to court. So is it like, when is this going to be out of my life? Because I'm not giving up, and they're not giving up. It's like a staring contest. They can't seem to get on top of me, but I can't seem to get on top of them either. So we're just keep
stalemates.
Yeah, banging, but I got to keep showing up here. It's So I was willing to try anything. So I started with the name game, the birth certificate. I tried everything. I tried red ink,
thumbprints,
all of it. I did it all. I was trying to get out of this. So commerce, there was a seminar that was in a town about 4 hours from where I live. And there was this guy teaching commerce. And so I thought, well, I'll go and try that. That's the next thing I'm going to try. That's, where I was at. And that's when things changed. So I went to this seminar and I went, oh, and I had a lot of epiphanies, like the light bulbs going on when I was there, because I had already done so much and pushed so hard on this thing. And I couldn't figure out why I wasn't victorious.
Yes.
Because I could see the judges looking at my paperwork and going, and you could see they're like, whoa.
They're shaking.
Yeah. And yet they still rule against me. And I'm like, whoa. How do I win in here, right? Not that I wanted to win. I wanted to get away from it.
Yes.
That was my goal, get out of my life. And so this was just the next thing. And it turned out that was the thing that actually changed my life. And so I started to study that. But it was the seminar that gave me the open door towards it.
Yeah.
And then when the judge ran out of the room, I went, okay, what is it? Why did he run out of the room? Because I don't understand what's happening. So then I started to search, and you can find stuff, but if you don't know it's there, you don't look for it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So to make it practical and available to people, when you're looking for information regarding commerce in legislation or law, how would you look for it? Where would you look for it? Are there certain websites that you search on? Are there certain people you try to contact?
You can just look up law merchant or lex mercatoria in Latin, and then you'll be just with a search engine, and it will lead you down paths. It exists.
Right.
But if you don't know to look for it, that's the problem.
That's right.
So there's a book from the 1600s written by somebody who was born in Antwerp.
Really?
And then he calls himself a British merchant, but he was trying to convince the king at the time. I think it was King James the first, to adopt commerce more freely, because the courts didn't like what was happening in the commercial world with all the bills of exchange and promissory notes and international bills of exchange, etc. They saw this as a scam. And so he was trying to convince them, no, you got to be up to speed, because this is how commerce works. So it's been around. It's just not, they tried to hide it, but you can't hide something if you know where it is. Yeah.
Okay. Let's look at that last remark. You can't hide it. So, for example, when you see, I try to explain it when you have window dressing in front of a store and when it's actually inside the store.
Yeah.
And when you see the legislative system, the judicial system, and you see what's happening in front of the store, the dressing, they seem to operate a certain way, which actually it's done a different way. So, for example, when you enter a court, you are asked to defend yourself, to represent the defendant role. Mm-hmm. What happens economically? What happens on paper? What happens in commerce at that moment? What is created? What kind of bills? What kind of documents?
Well, since the 1930s, when they crashed the stock market and then pulled the cash back, created the Depression, they forced all the countries to pledge their citizens. So
as collateral for the national debt, right?
Correct. So in order for them to put money back into the system, because they pulled the money back, they said, you have to register and then you have to create income taxes, and we're going to tax the people to pay back what we're going to lend you. But they lend out of nothing.
Exactly.
So prior to 1933, all the paper money was represented by gold or silver. So you could redeem it for gold or silver. And then after 1933, they took that off. And so now there's just pieces of paper, but we're expected to service that debt. So when you go into a court, they're looking at the birth certificate name, and that's the pledged piece. And there's a trust that goes with that, which, you don't want to get into that too much, but that's what they're looking for. So they create the law, you can't drive here or you can't walk here, and there's a fine. It's a money-making thing because these are all for-profit corporations. So they create laws that generate
commercial laws.
Yeah. Well, not even commercial laws. It can be, don't walk here. But the penalty is money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. So you can see that it's a business that it creates laws as its source of business.
Income.
Yeah, exactly. And then the taxes, most of that goes to the international banking system because they've lent that corporation some money based on how many people are there. So they have to do a census every 5 years that counts the assets. And then they have to, from there, they can figure out, okay, how much can we tax over the next 10 years? How old is everybody, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So everything's commerce.
So they actually made a lot of legal pledges. And because they made so many, or they have such debts over their shoulders, they thought, let's pledge our citizens with us together so that we can bond with them, or they can bond the citizens on paper.
Yep.
So every time a citizen tries to do something commercial or in commerce, we can bond them on that paper and earn money.
Correct.
Right? That's how it works, right?
Yeah.
So I just want people to realize that every time you do something, drive a car, you possibly run someone over, or you have an accident, or you buy something in a store, everything is recorded, everything can be bonded, everything has a price, everything can be traded on the bond market.
Yep.
There is a piece of everything everyone does in the name of that citizen that is bonded on paper and available in the bond market right now.
Yes, and you can track this, track these. They bundle things and put it in the bond market or even just in the stock market through mutual funds. And there's a thing called QSIP numbers where you can trace every document and every piece that's in a mutual fund or a bond fund.
Or less, as you said, bundled together.
Yeah.
Because as I understand correctly from sources, every year when a nation, let's not call it a country, let's call it what it is, a nation, needs to figure out how to pay off a debt or try to lessen it, they bundle birth certificates as collateral to pay off a certain amount of that debt with interest and everything bundled together. Is that correct? Is that how they do it?
Yep. And there is a trust called the SKV Trust in behind it, but they can't access the full amount of the money on behalf of the beneficiary, not legally. So, especially by traffic tickets and everything, you're only getting a small amount. So a lot happens at death.
Probation.
Yeah.
When the trust goes through probate.
Probate, yeah. So, and if you don't understand what's happening, that trust doesn't disappear. So if you thought about it, a big way to make money would be to reduce the population.
Exactly, because they can let a whole lot of trust go through probate, and because no one understands trust law, they can claim as much of what is in the trust available in the trust.
Exactly. So world wars are money makers, wars in general. But if you can get a world war where there's a lot of people participating, like World War I and World War II, those were big money makers. So right now they're moving commercially rather than using bombs, etc. The weapons are now vaccines. From our perspective at InPower, vaccines, chemtrails, smart meters, and 5G. But they're getting us to participate. They're getting us to agree with these. Yeah. So this is a different way of, rather than just moving artillery right through your town, they're getting you to go, yay, I want a faster phone. And you're actually participating and accepting the weapons.
Exactly, and because you accept their agreement or you accept the technology, they can create more bonds, more legal paper for them to earn money.
Yeah.
Because I also understand that they don't need you to do everything. They just need you to participate in whatever you do, and whatever you do, they can legalize and they can create documents out of by which they can make money.
Absolutely, everything is about money. The whole thing. Money runs the world. Those that create the money are in control, not the governments. The governments are subject to them. There's even a picture of one of the Rothschilds with his finger on Prince Charles. He was
You're my slave.
Yeah. Like, you don't touch royals, but obviously that guy can. So it shows you who's actually running things, even though we don't vote them in or out. It's because they have control of the money system.
Okay. Let's dial it back to the commerce part, because that's the most important part of InPower and the notice of liability. What are certain aspects, characteristics that from commerce that are embedded in the notice of liability that you use? Because a lot of people in this room have already made one, a notice of liability. But I think it will be very interesting for them to understand why it works the way it does and why people get shook up about it. Judges, lawyers, they get no response. Can you elaborate on that, please?
It's based in commerce. So the four things that I mentioned, the smart meters, 5G, spraying in the air, and vaccines, they're putting them out as offers in commerce. And then what happens is in true commerce, when you're dealing merchant to merchant, if you don't do a certain action, then you're in an agreement.
Yes.
And it's called tacit agreement.
Tacit agreement, yes. In Nederlands noemen wij dit stilzwijgend akkoord gaan.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're taking that principle that they've been using against us for generations, and we're saying, okay, we will take your smart meter, your vaccination, your 5G, or your spraying in the air if you can prove they're safe. which they can't because they're actually weapons, and weapons are never safe. They're designed to destroy things. So, and they are truly weapons. So, and then if you don't prove it safe to a certain standard in affidavit form, then I'm going to charge you $20,000 a day. And then we go, do you want to do we have a deal? If you now go silent, then you have agreed, because we're just doing that to us. So we flip the table on them, and when they keep putting these 4 weapons up, then we start billing them, and the bills are bills of exchange. So it's not something you collect the money with; it is the money in their system. And that's the hardest part for people to understand, because it doesn't make sense. And that's because we're on the bad side of this. And that's why the Rothschilds are the Rothschilds and we are where we're at, is because they understand that the bill of exchange is money and we don't.
And they know how to use it. And in general, people don't know how to use it.
Exactly. And it's not available to us to turn into cash readily or into a liquid form that's exchangeable. Because the baker down the street doesn't understand a bill of exchange anymore, just like you said with the checks.
Yes.
We've been trained out of it. Say 300 years ago, everybody would have known what a bill of exchange was. They may still not have accepted it, depending on whose name was on it, but they knew what it was. Now we don't even know what it is. And 20 years from now, people won't know what checks are.
That's right.
Because they're all tapping with their phones, etc. That's the new training thing.
Or they probably will not even remember what money is, or money that you can touch with your fingers.
Exactly. So you can see where they're going with this. So they will have full control, and but it's still based on the same principles, like you said earlier. Those never go away.
Also, I would like to add some extra remarks regarding commerce. So what the notice of liability does is it conditionally accepts an offer. It does not deny the offer, because if you deny an offer, you are in dishonor in commerce. And when you're in dishonor in commerce, they can legally charge you, right? They can come after you. They can put you in front of a court or whatever court they want, because you rebutted their offer and you were not in honor. You were not acting out of honor. When Cal sends them a notice of liability and they fail to respond, they are also in dishonor, right?
Yep.
Because they need to, in commerce, they need to reply. And if you do not reply, you are in dishonor and you are basically in the wrong. You basically lose the game, right? Because it's a game. It's a game of what I like to call ping pong.
Exactly.
And the one who has the better way of striking the ping pong ball wins, right?
Correct.
So after having said this, when you send them a notice of liability, I understand that there are different rounds to this process. At a time when David Straight came here to Belgium 2 years ago, he also said 5 steps, different steps. But I can't remember them exactly. But you end with an executed judgment, or a summary judgment?
So it's called a notice of default. That's the title of it. But it is it's a notice of judgment and an estoppel, et cetera, et cetera. So it finishes the negotiating part of a contract. So a contract starts with an offer. Then you either accept it straight up like this, or you accept it with, no, I want that finger down. Okay. And then you go back and forth. So if you've bought a house, you've been through this. You negotiated.
The terms of the contract.
Exactly. So that's called the meeting of the minds. So you have to have offer, an acceptance, and generally the meeting of the minds is before the acceptance, but you can accept right away. But then you have the negotiating part, then you have the ratification or the finalization. Then there has to be actual money move.
Yes.
And that's it. That's a full contract. What happens is sometimes you can get into these contracts, but they continue on because I bought 5 shirts, and then next month they're going to send me another 5 shirts. but I have to stop it in some way. Otherwise, they're going to keep sending me 5 shirts, and I have to pay for them. So you got to understand that that's all part of commerce, and it keeps commerce moving quickly rather than sitting down every month. Okay, I will take these 5 shirts, and then we sign. And it's too slow. So so there's reasons for all this. It's just they've abused the
ignorance of the people.
Exactly. They've kept us ignorant so that they can take advantage of how it works, and we don't understand it.
So when you have the notice of liability, can you explain step by step each document? You don't have to say exactly what is stated in it, but what it does, what it creates, and so people can understand the different steps in the process and exactly where they are depending on the document they are sending, or at the first, second, third, fourth document, where they are, and so they can try to orient themselves in this whole process. Can you please explain it?
So the offer's out there right now because they're spraying in the air as we speak, and they're putting smart meters on, and they've vaccinated. If you were, around between 2022 and now, they put offers out there, and during the vaccination, it was coercion. Nobody was forced to take it, and they had a lot of TV commercials, etc., hugging the grandma and the music, and go and get your thing, and you can have a hamburger or a donut, and all. So it was all commercial. It was all by design. So the offers are out there. We're conditionally accepting. So we're going into the meeting of the minds area, and we're saying, yeah, we see your offer, but it looks like it's dangerous. Could you please explain yourself? Because I don't, I'm willing to go along with this this agreement, but I need you to prove that it's safe. That's the condition. So the first round is basically setting up the condition. We explain the document. We explain why we think it's dangerous, et cetera, and then we give them 14 days to respond by affidavit, and then they don't, and so we send them a notice of fault and opportunity to cure. So in other words, we're saying, you didn't answer my first inquiry. I'm giving you another chance, and you got another 14 days. After that, that's it. You have agreed to all the terms in my counter
You're
offer.
in dishonor.
You're going to be in dishonor. So once they don't do that, then we send the notice of default, and you have. It's quite complicated. Well, not complicated, but it's quite thorough. That they are in default in all jurisdictions.
What does that mean?
That means in particularly here in civil law, in Belgian law,
national law,
in international commerce, and in spiritual law.
As in trust law.
Spiritual law.
What does that mean?
In before God and the archangels.
Okay.
So we go very deep with this, and a lot of the top people, on the top of the pyramid, it's the spiritual law that scares them, because they know something more than most of us do. So that's what happens, and then we start billing 30 days afterwards, and the bills of exchange. So based on a daily fee of anywhere from $1,000 to $60,000 US per day. So the bills are quite high. They're in the millions, and we're up to 59. We're probably at 60 billion now in bills of exchange worldwide.
So, and then probably the most important question, also one that I would like to know, if they are in default and you send them, let's call it, hey man, you need me 60,000 a day, for example, and you send them the amount on the document, and they do not reply, how do you enforce them to pay you?
We don't have to enforce them.
Okay.
Because in law merchant, the bill is the money. So I'll give you an example. A bill of exchange, in the Bills of Exchange Act in Canada, you can have a bill of exchange that has the same person as the payer and the payee. In other words, I could write, I hereby order Cal Washington to pay Cal Washington 100 euros and sign it and date it. And it's a bill of exchange that the rest of the merchants understand. So those that have like quadrillions of dollars, like the Rothschilds, they did stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So think about that. So who's going to enforce that? I owe myself.
Yeah.
And yet it's called money in their system. So you got to understand this is not logic the way we understand it. They're running a scam. And so you have to understand what I'm teaching is not logical for us. It's logical for them. So the bill is the money. It's not something you use to collect the money. That's what we're told.
So the moment you design it and you finalize it, it's actually worth the amount of money that you put on it.
Yes, exactly.
And that's
as soon as the signature, it has to have four things: who's paying, who's receiving, the exact amount, a date, and a signature. Bill of exchange or a promissory note, depending on the wording of it. Mm-hmm. And that's money in their system. This is how they became quadrillionaires. You can't get that much money by working or even selling things.
No, I'm printing money too.
You have to have control of, like, being able to just do it with ink and paper. That's the only way you can do that. And that's what they've done.
Okay.
So the trick is, originally the paper was payable in gold or silver. So that's what we still think it is, that it has value like that. But what they did is they started doing international bills of exchange and promissory notes. And England was not going along with this. The courts were not enforcing this. They were not going, you couldn't bring it into a court. They were just going, no, we're not touching that. The rest of Europe was.
Okay.
And so England was dragging their feet on this because they could see this is a scam. You guys aren't paying any of this. So, because what would happen is you could write a bill of exchange in another country that's payable in a whole other country, and you had to go to get the gold. And so
physically go there.
Yeah, you had to go and present at the merchant's place. And so a couple of things come up. Is like, well, who was walking that far? Who was getting in boats and going that far in order to go to the merchant's place? And how do you know he's going to be there? Because he's off going and collecting. So it became like, I don't think these guys are paying anything. Mm. So this is what going on in my head as I'm searching this. I went, they're not paying this. So they were basically writing credit notes, getting real stuff like tables and wool and whatever it was, based on their promise to pay, and they were good for it because they looked rich and all that. Mm. But they weren't really paying for it. The odd one would come through and they would have to pay for that. But generally speaking, I would guess they weren't paying for half of what they put out there. But the merchants all knew this, and they're all winking at each other because they're all in on it. Hmm. What they did was, in 1930, was turn us all into merchants with the birth certificate. So now the merchant principles apply to us all. They just didn't teach us it. Hmm. So now your birth certificate name is a merchant name, and that's why you can't do any commerce without it, without that tax number, and that goes along with that name. And so all they did was, now we're signing pieces of paper, creating bills of exchange. We just don't know it, and they're collecting them all, and they just keep collecting them. Right. So like the checks you were bringing up before, we used to get our checks back every month.
Right. That's right.
Now you don't.
No.
But those are being passed around as money, not to collect money. Hmm. They are money just on the face of them. It's just a different form that we're not told.
Okay. Another very intriguing question that I have. So when you know all this and you can make those money papers, let's call it what it is, how would you use them? Can you use them specifically? For example, you go to a judge and you say, here, $60,000. There is a debt, no more debt, here it is. And if they do not accept it, the debt is still paid.
Correct.
Can that happen in that scenario?
You can if you set it up with an administrative process similar to the notice of liability. So you set up, this is what I'm going to do. Do you agree? I'm giving you another chance, and now I'm doing the thing. So you always want to do that. You always want to be clear in your actions. But a court is a bank, and the judge is like a banker. So they can do the transactions in there. So for sure at a court, any document you get from your so-called government, like a tax thing, you'll see a thing at the bottom, and there's usually a line, or sometimes you can actually tear them off, but there's always a line. And then the bottom part looks like a check. It'll have your name, the government's name, the amount.
Yes.
And a date.
The routing number of the bank.
Yep. The only thing missing is a signature. So you cut that off, and because they're the drawer of it, then they have to accept it.
Because they created it.
They created it. The drawer is always liable, ultimately liable for a bill of exchange.
Isn't he also called the bearer of liability, the drawer?
Yes, yeah.
He bears the liability, right? And then he tries to pass it on to you. And then if you know what you do, you just give it back.
Exactly. So the drawer of any instrument is always ultimately liable. So they can't say, you can't do that because, well, you can't send that to me then. So you get them stuck in their own deception.
Scheme.
Yes, their own scam that's going on. And that's what, this is what I found in my own court cases and just generally speaking over a long period of time, that if you use their system against them, they really are stuck. They don't have anything higher than law merchant to get on top of you again. That's their limit. Then you're into some kind of off-planet law, spiritual law. This is their highest thing that they have. I've found there's nothing else that they have other than getting into witchcraft, etc. But they don't have a legal system above law merchant.
Is the law merchant based on the Bible?
Yes, I think it is, or the Bible's based on law merchant.
I thought it was both.
They're a mirror image of each other. They use different words, but the concepts are the same.
Because you can learn about trusts just by reading the first line of the Bible, actually.
Yep.
If you are smart enough and you know how it works, you can just see it, put it next to each other, as you say, and compare it. Remove the words or
change the words,
and you can see it's a match.
It's the same concept. So I think the biblical concepts are more spiritual, but they've created a system that mirrors the real system using money as the god, really. And but the principles are the same. Yeah, it's based on honor. Even the word sin in the original language can be translated as debt. So they're interchangeable.
Do you know the Latin word for sin? I know, but do you know?
I don't know, no.
It's poena. It's written Poena. It means death, punishment, and debt all at the same time.
See? There it is.
Yeah.
And that's how they are able to get away with this, pretending that they're honoring this, but it's actually something else.
And from that same word, we have the legal maxim nulla poena sine lege. It means no punishment without a law. And that's also where common law is based on. It's actually from Latin government jurisdiction so many years ago, and it's still used today.
Yeah. I suggest that people read the Latin legal maxims every once in a while.
Yes.
I read them, a couple times a year, because as I read them, some of them go by me. I read them, and then as I'm growing, I went, oh, and then you come back to them and you go, oh, yeah. Because unless you have a situation that you're in, the legal maxims sometimes aren't that strong. But I find if I read them over and over, I get stronger and stronger.
And also because I know the language Latin, I studied it for 11 years and I'm also a teacher in it. I can literally see in which situations you can use the legal maxims.
Yep.
Because if you know the language and you really know what the words mean, you can also translate them into specific situations, real life situations where you can use them for your benefit. And that's also why I read them a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
One of the tricks is register.
yes.
So when you register your car, register your child, register your home, register this,
Yes.
it's the root word is Reggie, which means king.
Rex.
So
Rex is actually the root word.
Yeah. So you're giving something to the king in some fashion.
Yes. It's from Rex and Stare, and it means that the king stands on top of something.
Yeah.
That is actually what it means to register.
There you go.
Someone, something stands on top of it instead of you.
Exactly.
That's what it means.
So we think we're putting it in recording it, but we're actually handing over some kind of interest in the item itself, including our children.
One specific question, very practical. If you receive, for example, in the mail, an invitation, you need to pay this and this amount. It's an invitation to pay. Have you done this where you just put your signature on it and you made it a bill of exchange, and you went physically into their building, gave it to them and say, here you are, here is your offer, it is now paid?
Me personally, I have not done that because I'm kind of out of the system, so I don't get bills anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't get tax bills. I don't file. But
why do I ask this? Because there are not many people in Belgium who understand law, and even less who know how to use it. And the name of the game in Belgium is bailiffs, as we like to call them, deurwaarders, who like to enforce debts. The people are so cowardly that they put off their liability and put them on the bailiffs to ensure that the debt is paid. They terrify people. They come at their house, they break in, they try to write everything down so they can be used as collateral to pay for the debt. Can you use in that instance a bill of exchange to give to the bailiffs, for example, as you do, because they put an offer on the table with an amount that they ask you to pay to them? Can you use that as a bill of exchange in that?
Yeah, if it's their paper and they're ordering you to pay, that's a bill of exchange. A promise to pay is me personally promising to pay. So you can use either one. You got to know when to use them. But generally, if there's a piece of paper with your name on it as the debtor and an amount and a date, then you just need to accept it. And that, because they took the money off of gold in 1930 or 33-ish, I'm not sure what, I think Belgium was 1936, but there is nothing to pay with anymore.
No.
And it's not our fault. They did this.
Is this what you call the House Joint Resolution of 1933?
Yeah. So every country took their money off of gold.
That's right.
Yeah. Belgium, Netherlands, and France, I think Luxembourg, and one other country, they held on for a while, staying with gold when the rest of the world went off, but they eventually.
When I hear you say this, I immediately think so. From that moment on, from 1933, we could legally write bills of exchange.
Absolutely. There is nothing else. There's no way to pay because they made it illegal to pay.
So we could have been writing them for almost 100 years.
Yes. And we have been writing them for almost 100 years.
That's right, but consciously.
Not understanding, and they've been taking the benefit of it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So they get you to sign things, and you're not realizing what it is you're signing.
That's right. Okay. Last thing about the bailiff example. I've heard you talk before. I've heard about your situations, your divorces, also the encounters you have with some police officers and agents, as we call them, which are quite hilarious, actually, if you think about it, the idiocy about it. But Have you had the situation where you were approached by bailiffs or other officers who tried to put you out of your house or take you out because you didn't pay a debt? And what did you do then?
Well, I lost my house in the divorce, but I didn't know that I could stand up. So it was gone within 24 hours of us being in court. My wife just put it up just gave it away, just because of the emotional turmoil. So since I've learned commerce, I'm not really I don't have any credit cards. I don't carry any debt. So I don't have that type of situation. But I can say that the bailiffs are part of the law merchant system. So the merchants in the pie powder courts and the staple courts, it was adjudicated amongst the merchants, and then there was mercenaries or bailiffs that would go and
mercenaries.
Yeah, they would go and take stuff like vigilantes.
Yeah.
So they could hold boats at dock, and it was done through force, similar to what you're saying. So it's the same system that's still running.
So they actually know this.
They may not know it because they're not trained in it, but the system, they're still operating in the system. The lawyers are operating in the system, but they don't understand it either. They're not taught. It's all controlled by very few at the top who are very rich, and then they've got everybody doing their operating in law merchant, but without understanding it.
It's brainless order followers.
Exactly. And so some of them actually, when you wake them up, when you explain this to them, then you can see they go, oh. Because I told one police officer, I said, this is just like Robin Hood and
his vigilantes.
Yeah, and the sheriff taking people's stuff as they're going down the road. And he went, I said, see, you're taking my van, you're putting it on a tow truck, and he went, I said, yeah, same thing over and over.
Yes.
You don't really want to do this to me. And he goes, no. I could see he got it. So others don't. They just
They just do what they're told. No brain.
Yeah. And they consider me the idiot, but and I don't care.
All right, man. Last question.
Yep.
You said that you don't live in the system anymore. You don't carry debt around with you anymore. How does your day-to-day life look like when you, for example, need food or you want to drink something? What do you do?
I operate in cash. So,
okay.
Yeah. So everything I do is cash. I didn't have a bank account even for a long time. And so my lifestyle is inconvenient, but it's doable. So I have like a pay-as-you-go credit card. I put cash on it, pay in advance. So I'm never going into debt. And so that I can use it everywhere and make transactions, because some places don't take cash. So I have to have that. And then everything else I do is cash.
Wow.
And yeah, it's not hard. It's just you got to go to the bank and get it, or wherever. I don't have mail delivered to my house mostly. I have a mailbox for government purposes, and I have to go there. I've had it for 20-something years.
But it's away from your property.
Yeah, because I've moved numerous times since then. But that's where the court even went there when I was locked up for 60 days, and they went to get my kids because I told them, you've taken my two minor daughters are at home. They don't know where their dad is, and you won't allow me a phone call. So they sent the child services to get my kids, and they ended up at my mailbox
with no house.
No house, just a business, and they were mad, and because I'm sure police, and it would have been a big
chase.
Well, it would have been a big entourage of people, and cars and trucks and social workers and whoever, but they all showed up there, and it was a business. And so they said that in court the next day. We showed up to pick up his daughters, and it was a business, and the judge just put her head down and didn't say a thing. It's like, not touching that.
She can't.
She can't. And there's nothing they could do. So once you understand commerce and understand who you are in this, you don't have to agree with it. Like, you don't have to like it. I don't like it.
Me too.
But this is what it is. And you can have a game piece, and you can be playing checkers, and they're playing chess, and you're going, no, I don't want to play checkers. I don't like, or I don't want to play chess. I want to play checkers. You're going to lose because the game pieces move different. Yeah, the game pieces move differently. So you got to go with, okay, they're playing chess. I need to play chess. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. And that's what I found.
Okay, man. Let's finish up with this. Thank you for the enlightening conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
It was great to meet you. Honor to meet you, actually.
Thank you. Yeah, likewise.